This is the book of Revelation, chapter 10, verse 1. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. Verse 2. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth. Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai. Yahweh is the name who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahushai is his son who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and taught us this truth. They are the true teachers for the nation of Israel on earth today. And salutation to the Akim out there pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, risking their life for Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai's sake. I'm Brother Samak from the GMS Miami camp. And yes, the reason why I brought out the book of Revelation, chapter 10, verse 1 through 2, is that I came across this article and read the headlines, and it reminded me of the scripture I just read, Revelation chapter 10, verse 1 through 2. All right? Because the Bible describes angels, okay, driving these so-called UFOs, which are chariots, all right? The chariots of God, also known as the chariots of salvation, okay? And, you know, the headline is powerful. Now, the fact that they wrote new biblical fears, all right, should be a motivation because, hey, it's fearful for those who don't know what these vehicles are. It's fearful for those, okay, who want to still live in denial. But as for us, the prophets of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, all right, we know exactly, okay, what these vehicles are and what they're intended, all right, for. All right, they're intended to deliver the children of Israel, the elect, wherever they be scattered at, and destroy, okay, wicked people that walk the earth. Okay, that's what these vehicles are. Okay, and again, they're described all throughout the Bible. And again, that's why I brought out Revelation chapter 10, verse 1 through 2, because when I was reading the article, you know, I'll read a little bit. It says the Trump administration released a fresh wave of UFO files last week, and they're not unidentified flying objects. They're identified flying objects. They're the chariots of the Most High, all right? The chariots of God, okay? The chariots of Israel. In fact, it reminded me of another scripture. Hold up. As birds fly. Is it birds or doves? Yep, doves. Excuse me. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 8. Who are these that fly as a cloud and as doves to their windows? Right. Okay, it's talking about the chariots, so-called UFOs. Okay. And these chariots, all right, these so-called UFOs, they're going to defend Jerusalem. In fact, it should be let me see if I can. Let me just type in as birds. Yep. This is the one I wanted to find. As birds, so Isaiah chapter 31, verse 31. Isaiah chapter 31, verse 5. As birds flying so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem, right? All right, these chariots, these so-called UFOs, okay, are going to defend the children of Israel. Defending also, he will deliver it, meaning the children of Israel, and passing over it, he will preserve it, right? So we know exactly what these vehicles are, okay? That's why the Lord said in Matthew chapter 24, because this also reminded me of this scripture. I'm going to start at 30, but the point is in 31. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Okay, this word mourn goes into the Greek word kapto, which means to, I'll get it real quickly, because these chariots are here to judge the earth. All right, and they're going to be led by Yahushua, who he calls Jesus, a so-called black man. Facts. To cut, strike, smite. See, the word is kapto. To cut, strike, smite. To cut from, cut off. Okay, so Yahushua, okay, with the angels are coming to smite and cut off, okay, wicked people, evildoers, okay? And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, right? Everyone's going to see Yahushua and the angels, okay, in the heavens. 31. And he shall send his angels, here we go, with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect, talking about Israel, the elect of Israel. That's who's set up for salvation. The chariots of salvation are for Israel. And I'm going to get Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter. We're going to read it, the whole chapter, okay, because it seems like certain pseudo Hebrew Israelites, all right, have forgot, okay, who the Lord, all right, is coming to deliver. All right, it's only the elect of Israel. All right, that's who salvation is for. They shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to another. Right, this reminded me also Deuteronomy 30, and I'm gonna get to the point. I'll start at 1 because clearly this is pertaining to the Israelites. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, talking to the Israelites, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all nations. All right, that's that reminds you of the book of Baruch. Okay, in the land of their captivity. Okay, they shall think upon my name. Okay, whither the Lord thy God have driven thee. Again, this is pertaining to the Israelites, only Israelites. 2. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice, according to all that I have commanded thee this day, and thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul. 3. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all nations where the Lord thy God have scattered thee. Okay, again, this is to the Israelites. 4. If any of thy be driven out of the outmost parts of heaven, okay, this is the precept to Matthew chapter 24. From thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Okay. 5. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed. Wait, this confirms that the people in the Holy Land, those are not the chosen people. They're imposters. All right. They're frauds. And thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. Right. So the Lord is going to do this. Okay. And this is the precept. This is the future prophecy. Okay. That, all right. The Lord is going to command his angels, all right, to gather his elect wherever they be scattered at. Okay. Fulfilling the prophecy. They shall all gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Right. Okay. So again, we know what these vehicles are. All right. It's not fearful for us. Okay. It's fearful for those, all right, that want to deny who's in these vehicles. All right. And deny the truth. All right. And of course, it's fearful to the heathen. Okay. Especially the elites. All right, the rulers of these heathens, all right, the kings of the earth, because they know exactly, all right, who's in these vehicles, all right, and what these vehicles' purpose are. Because of course, us the prophets bringing it out, okay, they're watching our lessons. So new biblical fears as declassified UFO files reveal angels in flight. Again, that's why I brought out Revelation chapter 10. Verse 1 through 2, because When these vehicles move, okay, they're being controlled by an angel in these vehicles, all right? And Revelation 10, chapter 1, verse 2 describes actually the UFOs, all right? And it looks like this, something out of the movie of Close Encounter of the Third Kind. In fact, that's the reason why Steven Spielberg designed, all right, these vehicles, all right, because they got it from the scriptures, and they matched it to what they saw in the heavens, okay? So yeah, they know, the elites know, okay, what these chariots look like. And a good example to describe Revelation chapter 10, verse 1 through 2 is if you watch the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Okay, this it's a great example of these chariots, these so-called UFOs. And in them are the angels, so-called black. Okay? Yeah. It's facts. And that's why you people are going to be scared. It says the latest batch in the White House pushed for UFO disclosure arrived Friday, including 46 videos Congress has been demanding the Pentagon release for months. Some of the clearest footage involved two incidents where U.S. satellites captured oddly shaped chariots flying over undisclosed bodies of water for several minutes. Okay, yeah, these are the angels. Okay. This is the power that they have. That's why the U.S. military and the rest of these heathens military, they ain't no match, all right, for the Lord's power, man. The Yahweh Shai, when he comes along with the angels, they're no match. It's going to be light work, man. One of those videos appeared to show a small figure in the flight that some have claimed looked like a person with wings moving through the air as protrusions from its upper body move back and forth. Out of all newly released files, the one is easily the wildest. The object almost appears humanoid. Well, the angels look, okay, like us. That's why when you read Genesis chapter 1, what does it say? God said, let us make man in our image. Hello, you know. All right, but people want to, have these bugged out thoughts, the little green men, okay? Or if they do look like a humanoid, it has to look like Esau Edom, a so-called white man, which is BS, okay? It's just bullshit. This UFO looks almost like an angel. Pretty amazing video. Another commenter added on social media, right? This also reminded me of Ezekiel chapter 1. I'm going to bring that out again. I brought it out last time because it speaks and describes the angels having wings, right? Just get to the point. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 4. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and the brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber out of the midst of the fire. Right, it's describing again the Chariots, so-called UFO. Again, a good movie to watch is Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Okay, Steven Spielberg shit. All right, where did he get this idea from? From the Bible. Okay. 5. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, talking about the angels, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, right? Let us make man in our image. 6. And everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. There we go. Okay. 7. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Right. So it proves that the angels are, okay, color, dark, so-called black. Okay. Just like the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, when you read Revelation chapter 1, all right, speaks of his feet as if it burned in an oven, okay? Burnished brass as it burned in an oven, all right? Because the angels and Yahweh Shai are, okay, have pigment, have color. They do not have, okay, leprosy like you devils, you Edomites, you so-called white people, all right? You have recessive genes, okay? Which confirms you're not the chosen people, okay? That's why when you're in the Holy Land, you get plagued with the sun. You get skin cancer. I mean, it's just facts. Facts. All right. So, yeah, Oh, and I love to go into this part where the feet, all right, it means they had ninja shoes, okay? Look up ninja shoes. They look like uh, a calf's foot. All right, all right. They had ninja shoes. So yeah. So you know what? I'm gonna get Habakkuk. I think we got the point. You know, we got the point. You know, real quickly. Just want to bring this out real quickly, and then I'll get to Habakkuk. The other new UFO incident followed a strange object for over 10 minutes flying over water. However, as the U.S. military satellite zoomed in, the object appeared to have several protrusions or tentacles on all sides. It was the latest strangely shaped object that somewhat resembled a biblical object known as the cherubim, the multi-faced winged angelic being described in the Bible's book of Ezekiel, right, which we just read. Okay, so they know we got the truth. That's why they watch us and they fear us. Pursuant to Revelation chapter 11, when it says that we stand upon our feet and fear, right, beheld them, right? Let's get that, because we're bringing out the words of the Lord, and it's cutting these military officers, all right, these bankers, okay, because they know we're telling the truth, and they're scared. Revelation chapter 11, verse 11, after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life, meaning the Ruach Kodash, spirit holy, from God entered into them, right? Okay, that's the comforter, all right? And that's why we know exactly what these vehicles are. And when we read the scriptures, all right, we are confident, okay, in the power of our Lord with these vehicles. We know these are his vehicles. This is his glory. This is his power. And this is how he's coming back to not only judge, but to deliver us, all right? And that's why they're also known as what? The chariots of salvation, which I'm going to get in Habakkuk chapter 3. The spirit of life from God entered into them, talking about us, the Israelites, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them, right? Talking about these heathens, okay? They scared, okay? 12, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither, and they ascended up into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them, right? That's the deliverance, okay? And that's why the angels are set up, all right, to gather the elect, to bring them into this chariot, this huge cloud, okay? So yeah, man, hey, it's getting spicy, man. We're almost out of here. All right, so we'll close off with Habakkuk chapter 3. We'll start at 1. Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 1. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigionoth. Verse 2. O Yahweh, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. Right, when we first heard this word, we were afraid. When we heard our apostle elders break down the scriptures, going into the chariots, the so-called UFOs, okay, how these vehicles are the vehicles to judge the earth and to deliver the elect, okay? When we first heard that, we were cut and we were afraid. We were like, yo, we got to get with the Lord, okay? All right, because we want to be delivered by these vehicles. We don't want to be destroyed by them. O Yahweh, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known. In wrath, remember mercy, right? And that's what we want, okay? The mercies of David, all right? Just like David was shown mercy, okay? That's what we want, all right? And that's who the Lord is going to provide the mercy to, okay? To his elect, all right? You know, you got a lot of individuals out there, you know, that know that the Israelites that don't think they need mercy from the Lord. You got individuals that say they can keep the whole law. They can keep all the law. They can keep all the commandments. That's off, man. You're saying you don't need mercy, okay? That's crazy work. 3, the Most High came from Teman. Teman, you already know, that's to these Edomites, man. And the Holy One from Mount Paran, Salah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. Right, what is the Lord's glory? The chariots, so-called UFOs. 4, and his brightness was as the light, and he had horns coming out of his hand, talking about the laser beams. And there was the hiding of his power, right? Because when you go into the word horns, check this out, all right? The Hebrew word is quoran, which means horn of strength, right? The chariots, all right? These vehicles are the Lord's strength. But here's the point. Of rays of light, right? Talking about the laser beams, okay? And you see it. A good movie to watch is Independence Day. 5, before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. 6, he stood and measured the earth, and beheld, and drove asunder the nations. and the everlasting mountains were scattered. The perpetual hills did bow. His ways are everlasting. Right. He drove asunder the nations. All right. Meaning the Lord's coming to judge the heathen, not save them. Genesis. Come on, man. All right. This proves that y'all sold out. 7. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of land of Midian and did tremble. Yeah. Because the Lord's judging these heathens. 8. Was the Lord Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was thy anger against the rivers? Was the wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thine horses? Talking about the chariots, so-called UFOs, and thy chariots of salvation. Right, because they're known as the chariots of salvation. For who? Okay, the Israelites. Okay, and only the elect are going to get it, and they're going to be delivered. 9. Thy bow was made quite naked, according to the oaths of the tribes, even thy word, Salah. Thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. Let's read the NLT. You brandish your bow and your quiver arrows. You split open earth with flowing rivers. Right, it's talking about those laser beams. 10. The mountains saw thee, and they trembled. The overflowing of water passed by. The deep uttered his voice and lifted up his hands on high. 11. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Okay, so yeah, man. All right, this is the Lord bringing that judgment. 12. Thou didst march through the lands in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Did it say save the heathen? No, it says thresh the heathen in anger. Okay, heathens can't be saved, man. All right, that's why we know Genesis. Y'all bugged out, man. Y'all either sold out to Esau, which that's a high probability, given how you changed everything you were taught from one West in 1 year, okay, or you have sold out, okay, to Satan. All right, and to the and we'll see. Either Satan plagued you, in the mind. You sold out to Satan, and you've been plagued in the mind. All right, or you sold out to the physical counterpart of Satan, Esau, Edom. Okay, either way, you sold out. You sold out to, all right. Okay, against the Lord. Let's put it that way. 13. Thou wentest forth the salvation of thy people. Again, this is who's thy people, the Israelites. Even for salvation with thy anointed. Thou woundest the head of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Salah. There you go. Okay. NLT version. You went out to rescue your chosen people. You saved your anointed ones. You crushed the heads of the wicked and stripped their bones from head to toe. Right. This is when the Lord comes back to destroy. And he's going to use these vehicles. Okay. So-called UFOs. And Yahushua is coming in a big spaceship. All right. Read 2nd Esdras 13. So, Lord willing, this is edifying. Okay. Again. All right. The Bible is the truth. No other book can mate with this book. I'll close out with that one because what's it called? These are the vehicles, all right, that are mentioned all throughout the scriptures, which proves that the Bible is the truth. All right, and these are the vehicles we need to be saved. The chariots of salvation. Isaiah chapter 34, verse 16. Seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, meaning the prophecies. None shall want her mate, meaning no book, all right, can compete with the Bible. No book is equal to the Bible. For my mouth it had commanded, and his spirit it had gathered them right. Okay, the Rakah Kodash, Spirit Holy, or has gathered what? The elect to believe on these words. All right, when they see articles like this, they know the scriptures, the scriptures to go to. Okay, because at the end of the day, we use articles to filter. All right, we use these articles, all right, as the color or the filter for the scriptures. Okay, to give you a clear understanding. 17. He had cast a lot for them, and his hand have divided it unto them by line, and they shall possess it forever. From generation to generation shall they dwell therein. Right, talking about the land. All right, we're going to get the land, the Holy Land. Okay, the 12 tribes, which James, all right, was writing to James 1 and 1, to the 12 tribes of scatterball greeting, all right? He was writing a letter of encouragement, okay? An exhortation, all right? To let them know that, hey, all right, real soon, you're going to be home, all right? And the 12 tribes, the prophecy about the 12 tribes coming back, okay, under Yahushua is going to be fulfilled. Only believe. So, yeah, Lord willing, is us edifying. Again, this reminds me of Revelation chapter 10, verse 1 through 2, okay? It describes the chariots, an angel, okay, in the chariots in flight. And again, Revelation 10, verse 1 and 2 describes exactly that. All right, and if you want some visual aid, just watch the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Okay. All right, now of course, no little green men are coming out, no little short, little green, little men, because that's Esau with his BS blasphemy against the heavens, because he's the devil. So these are, all right. The angels are so-called black. Okay. And they're fierce, and they can't wait to, all right, judge. All right, they look forward to judging. So, Lord willing, as us edifying, I want to give all praise and all glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Bakar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled well and taught us this truth. They are the true teachers for the nation of Israel on earth today. And citation to the Akim out there pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four quarters of the earth and risking their life for Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai's sake. Love you, brothers. Keep it keep the faith, keep pushing, keep fighting, keep studying. Pray without ceasing. Pray for each other. Pray for the apostles, elders. We're almost out of here. To the few sisters that are watching, keep studying. When you pray, pray to cover. Shalom. And on to the next one. Shalom.